Why can't I find a PS5 in any store? I've already been to 4 stores. They were all sold out. All the scalpers are really making me mad. I wish I could finally find a PS5. We all know how bad the launch of the PS5 was. It was absolutely terrible. Now you may be asking yourself why the PS5 launch was so bad. And I'll tell you. Firstly, the world had a shortage of computer chips, meaning they cannot produce as many PS5s as they wanted to. Just take a listen to Boogie2988.
And this is not the fault of the consoles themselves. It is not the fault of the people who are marketing these consoles. It comes down to global shortages on computer chips. It is just very difficult to acquire these machines. If they were available in the same quantities that the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One were, they'd probably have record sales. You just can't get your hands on the damn things. And while I'll admit that this is getting a lot better, you can put your name on waiting lists, and then eventually you will get your chance to buy one of these things on one of these new waiting lists. It does come down to the fact that we are also in the middle of a global recession. So some of the people who would eventually purchase one of these when they become available will just not be able to afford it, and that sucks.
Now you can see why the PS5 launch was so bad. But wait, there's a second reason why it was so bad. It's because all those dang scalpers. The scalpers would buy a PS5 right when the restock happens, and then sell them for an insane amount. I've seen one being sold for over $700, which is $200 more than the retail price. Now that's insane. Okay. You get how bad the launch of the PS5 was. Now you get to see how good of a console the PS5 is. First, let's talk about the design of the PS5. It's a giant beast of a console, so the big fans can fit inside of it, so it cools down and stays quiet. The PS5 is 15.4 by 10.2 by 4.1 inches big, and that's massive compared to the Xbox Series X, which is only 6 by 6 by 12 inches big. The PS5 also comes in a disc and discless version, which the disc version is $100 more expensive. The different versions does not affect the gameplay of the PS5, only whether or not you can put discs in. Now let's move on to the power of this thing. The PS5 has the capability to run at 4K Ultra HD, which is the most powerful graphics in a console yet. The PS5 has a 16GB RAM card, which is pretty good. It also has 825GB of storage. Plus you can buy an extended storage and put that in your PS5 to have even more games. Now let's get on to the spicy stuff, which is the controller. This controller is like no one's ever seen before. This controller has a thing called haptic feedback, which most past controllers have had. Haptic feedback lets you feel what's going on in the game, such as the recoil of a weapon. But this controller also has something absolutely brand new that no controller has ever seen to this date: adaptive triggers. These triggers let you feel in real time stuff such as driving cars and feel how you have to press it to drive. Also, when you fire a weapon, you feel the resistance of the trigger as if you're firing a weapon in real life. Most new games support this controller, and it feels absolutely awesome to hold and feel the realism within every game that you play. Don't just take it from me. Here's what TMR TN2 said.
Speaking of feedback, that's one of the major new additions. We've got haptic feedback now, so it says it adds a variety of powerful sensations you'll feel when you play, such as the slow grittiness of driving a car through mud. We also incorporated adaptive triggers into the L2 and R2 buttons of DualSense, so you can truly feel the tension of your actions, like when you're drawing a bow to shoot an arrow. So this is just kind of another sense that they're giving us. Obviously, a lot of gaming is your sight and your hearing, but this is going to give us a little bit more feedback, a little bit more creativity from a development perspective to kind of immerse yourself in the game. You know, when you're driving through mud and it's really slow and sluggish and it's hard to turn the wheel and stuff like that, like you're going to kind of physically get that feedback. You've also got things like the bow and arrow example there, or even like maybe a weapon in a shooting game. Like obviously there's going to be a bit more tension when you're pulling that trigger to fire, but then once you fire, it's going to kind of spring back out. So you're going to have more tension in and less tension out. It's not going to be the biggest difference in the world, but it is potentially going to add a little bit more realism to it, which is pretty cool.
Now there's one last feature to this controller. It also has a microphone built inside. Now the mic not be the best quality, but you can still talk to your friends and have a great time playing with them. But even with this great controller, there are some downsides to it. The controller gets stick drift just as easily as the PS4 controller. Stuff like food particles and pepper can easily get in your controller, causing it to drift. Some fixes are adjusting your controller dead zone so it doesn't drift, and you can try and clean your controller, which are very easy to take apart. Now you know all about the PS5 and how great it will run things with the brand new haptic triggers on the controller. Now you get to decide whether you buy it.